to my channel. My name is Ashley and I just finished up my first year teaching 5th grade in Wisconsin. So first, I want to say thank you to everyone that has shown support in my first 2 videos. This is something I've wanted to do for a while and now I'm finally getting into it, and I absolutely am overwhelmed by the support I've gotten from people already. So if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button below. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and please in the comments let me know any videos that you want to see or you're interested in for the summer, maybe what I do in the day, what I'm going to plan for next year, and anything else. Leave those in the comments below because I love to hear from you guys and get your ideas as well. So today I am going to be diving into my teaching story and how I got into teaching and what it was like my first year and leading up to it, schooling, everything in between. To get started, I am a cliche of saying I've always wanted to be a teacher, but it is so true. I could not say it enough. I remember as a little kid, I was always playing school with my friends. I was always the teacher in the school, and I always loved playing school and everything like that. So I've always wanted to be a teacher. I had so many teachers growing up that I just looked up to and I thought were awesome people, and I wanted to be exactly like them. Now, that didn't stay the same all throughout my schooling. I always wanted to be a teacher, but on the other hand, I was like, well, maybe what if I try doing this, or this seems really interesting. So it wasn't just, I'm gonna be a teacher, that's it, done. There was some exploring that I did as well, but I ended up really wanting to be a teacher. I think it was after my freshman year of college. I'm like, this is what I want to do, because freshman year, I took different classes. I took psychology, I took science, I took everything in between, which most schools make you do, but I wanted to explore and I wanted to see what else is there that I really enjoy. And after freshman year, teaching was it. Teaching was what I wanted to do. During college, I did a lot of observations, I did a lot of clinical work, and of course I did my student teaching. My student teaching is a whole other story in itself, so we're gonna get into that one now. So when I graduated college in May of 2017, I was getting ready to do my student teaching in that fall. My original plan was to do student teaching that's closer to my school, because if it's within an hour away from our school, which I live about 2 hours away, I could do student teaching through there and they will set it up for me and get everything ready to go. It was not until about mid to early July that I decided to stay home, because I didn't have a means of living up at school. I didn't know what I was going to do for a place. I didn't want to sign a year lease and be stuck there for an entire year of working a 40-hour job as a student teacher and not getting paid. So I decided mid to late July that I wanted to stay closer to home. I had to do it myself, which was honestly a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I ended up living across the street from a woman who was a business administrator at a school about 40 minutes away from me. So I talked to her and I reached out to her and I was like, hey, do you have anybody in your school that has had a student teacher before? Because that was a requirement that we had to do for student teaching, is that a cooperating teacher has had to have a student teacher before. I don't know why, that's just how it was. She got back to me the next day and was like, I have a 2nd grade teacher that has had a student teacher before and would absolutely love it. How about you come to the school next week? We can meet, you guys can talk, and we can get it squared away and ready to go. I was amazed. I was like, oh my gosh, 2nd grade, I love 2nd grade. I did all of my clinical observations in a classroom in 2nd grade. I don't know how that worked. There were about 3 different ones that I did all in 2nd grade. And I did lower little kids, like 2 and 3-year-olds, but in a school setting, K through 5, 4K through 5, all I did was 2nd grade. So I thought that was perfect. 2nd grade was the grade I wanted to teach. I love that age. Those kids are just so amazing, and I was so excited to start that journey. So I met with her. She is an amazing person. My cooperating teacher is so wonderful. She was absolutely amazing the entire time I was with her. I was kind of taking the approach of student teaching like, oh, I'm gonna kind of ease into it. I'll sit back for a week or 2, but no, it was back to school night and here you go, introduce yourself, talk to the parents. You're gonna be the one teaching this most of the time anyway, so go ahead. And I was like, whoa, okay. So my student teaching in Wisconsin, we do 18 weeks. So we have 9 weeks at one placement and then 9 weeks at another. Now, My certification, I have a birth through 5th grade certification in Wisconsin. It is early childhood to middle childhood, birth through 5. So my first student teaching placement was 2nd grade, and my second student teaching placement had to be either at a 4K or younger level. Because I was birthed through 5th grade, I had to get that lower end of the spectrum, that early elementary or early education. Finding my first placement was amazing, and it was awesome, and it was so much easier, and I'm so thankful for that. Finding my second placement was a little bit harder, but I had more time. Because I started the school year at my first placement, and I was there from the first week in September they started up until the week right before Thanksgiving. So that was my 9 weeks. So I had 9 weeks essentially to find a second placement because I lived in Illinois. So I emailed schools right over the border and was trying to find out. We have this big school district that's right over the border that has about 15 different elementary schools. So I was placed in a 4K probably in the beginning of October, middle of October-ish. Another thing I had to do with doing student teaching closer to home was I needed to find a college advisor close to me that would come and watch me teach a few times and kind of just advise me through the student teaching process. I live 2 hours away from my college. My advisor, they don't travel past an hour, and I was at almost 2 hours away from them. So I needed to go to a college that is close to me. Luckily, there are a couple colleges that are close to me, and find an advisor. And I got really lucky because I emailed a school. It was the first school I emailed. The next day, there was a woman. I will be your advisor. I'd love to help. And she was amazing. She was so helpful. She reminded me so much of my college advisor. I am just so happy that everything worked out the way it did with my student teaching, because I made the decision in the middle of July to stay close to home, and I was freaking out. I was like, how am I going to find placements? How am I going to do this on my own? But I just emailed people right away. I emailed principals of schools. I emailed administration of schools. I emailed HR. And I was just, hey, I'm looking to do my student teaching. I went to this college and I'm going to do closer to home student teaching. Would you be able to help me or find me a placement? And they are willing to do it. They just want to help. The whole system of education, everybody in it just wants to help each other get better. And I think that's something that really just was so apparent during my student teaching, because I had a neighbor who I didn't really know a whole lot, but she was like, yeah, for sure, like come to my school. I have a teacher here that's willing to help you. And it was amazing. I did my 9 weeks, and I was so sad to leave my second graders. I was heartbroken. And I was so sad because I just made such good connections with all of them. And the school that I taught at was a 4K through 8 school, and they only had 1 classroom per grade level. So it was such a close-knit community, and everybody was so close, and you knew everybody, and it was just an amazing environment to do my student teaching in. And I'm so, so lucky to be able to say that. I love my student teaching. It was amazing. Now, the week of Thanksgiving, I went to my new placement in 4-year-old kindergarten. Now, that was a little bit of a change, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I thought it would be so difficult to go from the second grade perspective to now, okay, these are 4-year-olds, what can we do? But the cooperating teacher I was with was so amazing. She was a veteran teacher. She'd been teaching for 15 years. And 4K was her thing. Now, she was in a classroom. We had an AM class and a PM class. So planning for it, it was actually super helpful because my cooperating teacher, being a veteran teacher, knew very well her schedule of what to do, what she wanted to do when. There was arts and crafts every day. That was also instruction for shapes, colors, numbers, letters, everything like that. And I think after a week or so of kind of just sitting back and like helping the kids here and there with morning work or getting ready for arts and crafts and stuff, I was into the teaching, and I was the one that was reading the stories, and I was the one that was teaching the arts and crafts. So I am just really lucky that my student teaching experience went as well as it did. I had 2 amazing cooperating teachers that were just wanting to help me to get better. And I know that is not everybody's experience, but I am here to tell you that if you did not have a great student teaching experience, do not let that discourage you and make you not want to teach anymore. Because you can have an amazing student teaching experience and get into a classroom on your own and be like, I don't like it, I don't know what I'm doing, this is crazy to me, why am I in this field? And on the opposite side, you can have a horrible student teaching experience, get into your first year teaching and be like, this is what I was born to do. So don't feel like if you didn't have a good student teaching experience, you're not gonna have a good career. But do not let any obstacle get in the way of what you wanted to do. Because I made a decision so late in the summer that, hey, I'm gonna do close to home student teaching, it's just gonna be better for me. And then I went into a freak out mode for a couple days, and then it all fell into place. And everything that happened was part of a plan that was way bigger than my plan. I was so over my head with, what am I gonna do? This is such a late decision for me that is it even gonna work out? I was so ready to just, I'm gonna do spring student teaching and wait till January and do it then. But I am so happy that I just, a few days after freaking out, I started contacting people right away. After student teaching, I finished in the beginning of February. After that, it was time to apply to get my teaching certification in Wisconsin. So that is another story in itself. I submitted all of my things in about March. So I applied in March, sent in all my stuff, and the turnaround process in Wisconsin is typically 6 to 8 weeks is what it tells you online and what your advisors tell you, because that's what it typically should be. I'm going into August of 2018, still no teaching certificate. That was about 4.5 months later, and I still had not gotten it. And I have no idea what took so long that I just did not get it, but I finally got it like the 2nd or 3rd week of August, and I was so excited. But the bad thing about that is I didn't have a job for the 2018-2019 school year. Because I got my certification so late in August, I wasn't able to have a job that school year. I was applying to schools all throughout July and into the beginning of August because I was very hopeful that maybe it's coming soon, but I didn't have that requirement checked off on a lot of the job listings. I would email or say something like, I have my certification, it's on the way, I applied for it, I passed everything, I got all my stuff in for it. And unfortunately, jobs just don't want to deal with it that late in the summer. So that was a really hard pill to swallow because that was supposed to be my first year teaching. And I was so heartbroken that I could not get a job for that school year. There were jobs that opened up the last week before school started, but at that point, school was starting the last week of August. I would have had a week to do my interviews, get through everything, get all my stuff, get into my classroom, get everything ready, get myself ready to go. And I know the type of person I am, I couldn't do it. The type of person I am, I would have absolutely freaked out if I would have gotten a job on like a Thursday and then the following Monday we started school. I would not be in the right mental state to be ready to go into a classroom to teach kids. Now, I know that's not everybody's experience. I know some people can get a job and 2 days later they're ready to go with teaching, but that's not how I am. I couldn't mentally prepare myself well enough to be in a level head, ready to go within a few days of getting a job and then jumping into the school year. And that's just something that I had to accept, that I wasn't going to be able to have a job that year. And I accepted it. I wasn't happy about it, but it happened. So if there's anybody out there that has that experience right now of, when am I getting my certification? Can I apply for jobs? Can I not? Apply for jobs, even if you don't have it. If you're in the waiting process of getting it, right now, jobs are opening up. It's the end of the school year. It's the beginning of summer. Jobs are starting to open up. Apply for the jobs. The neighbor that lives across the street that helped me set up my student teaching, she moved to another school and she said, hey, I have a job here. Are you interested? It was 3 days before school started. And although she's an amazing woman and she helped me with my student teaching and get into the school I was at and everything like that, I just responded and I said, I don't think I can do that. Like, thank you so much. I am so sorry to say no. I hate saying no to a job opportunity, but I don't think I could mentally get myself ready. And she understood. She was like, I totally get it. Like, don't feel bad at all. If you're waiting for your teaching certification, apply for the jobs. Just apply, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know if there's a district that's, hey, we take people, if you're waiting for your certification, as long as it comes within a first month or two of school starting, like, hey, we'll take you on. Or if they see you have all your stuff in, you're going to get your certification, come teach at our school. Because a lot of people, a lot of districts, a lot of schools will do that. Because if you put all your stuff in for your certification and you pass all your tests and your NTPA and all of the requirements you need, you're getting your certification. That 2018-2019 year, I ended up getting a job at a daycare. I worked with little babies and they were so cute. I worked in the 6-month to 1-year-old room, which I loved it. It was awesome. It obviously was not what I wanted to do. I worked that for about up until April, I want to say, of 2019. And I just told my boss, like, hey, I want to get ready, get myself prepared to look for teaching jobs and get into that in the fall. Now to the job hunt, which was so exciting, but so stressful, but so everything in between. So I was looking for jobs and I was kind of just going for whatever was open. The number one thing I can tell somebody going into their first year teaching, do not limit yourself and say, oh, I'm only going to apply for 2nd grade or I'm only going to apply for 3rd grade. Unless you live in a district that has an abundance of those certain positions open, do not limit yourself. Okay? I did all of my clinicals. I did my student teaching in 2nd grade and then one in 4K. I knew I did not want to teach 4K or kindergarten, but I did not limit myself to what I applied for. So I was applying for kindergarten, I was applying for 4th grade, 3rd grade, everything. And that's what you kind of need to do. Your first year teaching, you just got to get your foot in the door somewhere, because if you get in a grade that you're not so happy with or you don't really like as much or that's new to you, you could always teach there for a year and then ask your school, like, hey, if there's positions or opportunities to change grade levels, I'd love to. Or you never know, you could fall in love with the grade you're teaching. The job hunt. I applied for many, many jobs. I applied for jobs in Wisconsin. I applied for jobs in Illinois because I live right at the border of it. I knew Illinois would be tricky because I don't have my Illinois teaching certificate. I had a few job interviews and I got really discouraged because my job interviews, I had one at the elementary school that I went to school growing up at in Illinois. And I was so excited because I love that school. A lot of my old teachers that I had were still teachers there. And I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I love this neighborhood. I love this town. I love this school. So let's go for it. Had my interview. They called me back. I came in for a teaching section because they were in their last couple weeks of school. So I was able to go in and teach a class. So I went in, I taught. About a week later, I got a call that they went with somebody that was more experienced. It was still really early in the summer. It was about the first week of June. So I had all summer to apply for schools. So I kept applying. I had a second interview. This school was about 30 minutes away from me. I didn't mind commuting either. That's another thing. Do not limit yourself to being in the town that you are in right now. If you need to commute 30 minutes to work, so be it. Commute 30 minutes to work. Because at least if you don't want to stay at that school after a year and it's too far of a drive for you for that school year, at least you have a year of teaching under your belt that now you can apply to places and you look more qualified to them because people like experience. So just take the drive 30, 40 minutes a day for an entire school year. I know it's a lot, but don't limit yourself. I had this interview. Awesome school. Again, super amazing school. I went to, I had my interview there, and I had it with the principal and I had it with an HR rep. So I thought it went really well. About a week later, I got a call that they're gonna go with somebody with more experience. And that one kind of just stung a little bit. That's teaching. A lot of places are gonna go with somebody that has a year or 2 or 3 under their belt already. And that's just how it is. And it's hard to accept. Honestly, it's hard to accept. Like, I just wanted to say to them, like, how do you expect me to get experience when nobody's giving me a chance to teach in the first place? Like, how do people get experience if nobody gives them a chance? I just felt kind of defeated, but it was still early in the summer. I'd still had a lot of time. I ended up applying for a few different places. I had another interview at a school. I was not a fan of that school. It was not the place for me. I knew it wasn't, but I knew the principal there. So I went in for the interview, and she pulled me aside after the interview and was like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? You don't belong here. I know what you're capable of. And yes, this is my school, but it is not a place for you. I am so glad she did that, because that wasn't the place for me. She ended up leaving that school about a week later. Just don't put yourself in a position to be in a place where you're unhappy. And I'm so glad that she did that, because I would absolutely hate to be in a school that I just did not feel happy in. You know, like, obviously you build those relationships with your students, but if you don't have parent involvement, if you have a really bad setting, if you don't like the people that you're teaching with, all of these different factors coming into one, if you don't like it, it's gonna be a hard year. I was like, what am I going to do? After that interview, I honestly just had a mental breakdown and was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm not finding a job. I broke down to my boyfriend and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, it is now like the beginning of July and I don't have a job yet. So I just kept applying, because that's all you really can do. And in the beginning of the summer, I had applied to a school, and I never heard anything until about the second week of July. So they contacted me and said, hey, we want you to come in for an interview. We have a few open positions. We'd love to, talk to you. So I went in. I went to the school. It was about the middle of July then. I went in and I waited for 45 minutes. They're like, interview at 10:30. I got there at like 10:15, sat in the office. I didn't walk into the interview room until like 11:10, because somebody before me took way too long. And already that's like a bad sign. It's like, oh, if they have a long interview, obviously they're connecting, they're talking, they're vibing together. Like, what does this leave me with? So I went in, had my interview. There was 4 people in the room. I hadn't had an interview with 4 people in the room. I've only had 1 or 2 people. So 4 people is a little intimidating to look at and to interview in front of, and they're all asking me questions. My head's like on a swivel and I'm like, what am I doing? So I went. It was an awesome interview. At the end of the interview, the principal says to me, well, unfortunately, you're only qualified through 3rd grade, and we have positions that are older than that, and we just don't have any openings right now that qualify for you, but I feel like you would be a great position for a permanent sub, just to be on the sub list, anything like that. I was like, whoa, hold up. I have my certification through 5th grade. And she's like, really? Like, she had no idea. I don't know what happened, where the miscommunication went, I don't know. But she was like, really? You do through 5th? I'm like, yeah, I have my certification birth through 5th grade. So she's like, wow, well, I'm so glad you said that. That was the place that I ended up getting a job at for 5th grade. So I am so lucky. I don't know how it worked out that way, but I am so lucky that she ended up saying something like that I could say back, like, wait a minute, like, let's fix this. Because that's where I ended up getting my teaching job, 5th grade. She called me about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and I was like holding back my tears on the phone. And I was like, can I call you back like in 10 minutes? I just need to let it sink in. She's like, oh no, absolutely. Like, think about it a little bit. Call me back whenever you need to. It's like, okay. Got off the phone. I instantly start crying. I call my boyfriend. I call my parents. And I'm like, I just got offered a job position in 5th grade. And they're like so excited. They're like, well, what did you say? Of course you said yes. And I'm like, well, I said I'll call you back. and calm myself, because I know if I would have stayed on that phone any longer with the principal, I would have started crying and she would have been like, what are we doing hiring this girl who is just crying on the phone? So I called her back and I said I would absolutely love to accept the position. And that's kind of where it went. And after I got off the phone, I was like, 5th grade? Did I hear that right? I just had to mentally prepare myself to be like, what do 5th graders do? What do they learn? What are they like? They're older than 2nd graders, obviously 3 years older than 2nd grade. So like, I was nervous. I was a nervous wreck. I had no idea how it was gonna go. 5th graders were way older than what I was used to, what I wanted, but I fell in love with 5th grade. I absolutely love it. And I love the school I'm at. I'm going there again next year. Who knows what grade I'll be teaching next year? But I am so glad that I did not limit myself to applying to only positions 2nd, 3rd, 1st grade that I wanted. I applied to a lot of different positions and that worked out. And I love where I'm at. I am just so blessed to be at such an amazing school, and that it worked out that way. Because if that principal had never said, hey, you know, you're only through 3rd grade, it would have been a totally different life at this point. Like, I don't even know what I would have been doing. But I'm so glad she said that. And even now, like, we've talked about it before, and she's like, I don't know what happened. I thought you only went through 3rd grade, but I'm so happy you go through 5th, because that's in school. And that's where I ended up and where I'm supposed to be. And I'm so happy to have been there. And I love 5th grade. I love it. Who knows where I'll be next year? I put in a request, not a request, but I said I'm open to moving grade levels if you need it, because there are going to be some grade switching going around. So I said I'm open to it if you need it. Wherever you see fit for me, put me there. Now, who knows? Maybe I'll be back in 5th. Maybe I'll be at a younger grade. I don't know yet, but I know that my journey to get to where I'm at right now was not easy. I had a last minute change in my student teaching, what I wanted to do with it. I waited 4.5, 5 months to get my teaching certification. I didn't have a job what was supposed to be my first year of teaching. I had to accept it. I had to move on from it. But all of that led up to where I am right now, and the position I'm at, and the school that I'm at, and the community I've built this past year. And everything happens for a reason, whether it's your plan or a plan that's higher than yours. Everything is going to happen for you. So if you are a first-year teacher or looking to be a first-year teacher, and you're at a point where you're overwhelmed and you're looking for jobs and you don't know what it's going to be like, breathe. Just breathe. Because we've been there. Everybody's done it. You're gonna run into places where it's like, do I apply for it? Do I not? Apply. Just apply. Do I go to the interview? Do I not? Go to the interview. See what it's like. If it's not a position for you, say, no thank you. Like, thanks, but no thanks. If you get turned down because they went with somebody that was more experienced than you, do not let it discourage you. Do not. I had 2 schools tell me that before I got to the school I was at. I had schools I applied to that I never even heard of or heard from. So there was a lot of places that I put myself out there and I didn't get anything in return. And that's kind of what it comes down to in job searching and looking for a teaching position, is you just got to be open. You got to keep going. Because if you get turned down by 5, 10, 15 schools because they went with somebody else, they went with more experience, don't let it discourage you. Keep going, because somebody's going to give you that chance. That's my teaching story. I have a lot of mini stories all wrapped into one. It was not an easy journey. It was a hard, difficult, stressful, emotional journey to get where I'm at now, but I just finished my first year teaching, and I am so happy that everything worked out the way it did, because if it hadn't worked out the way it did, I wouldn't feel as good as I do now at the school I'm at, the people I'm with, the way I felt this year. So just keep going. That's all my advice that I have for anybody looking for a job right now. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're not a teacher, just keep applying to places. So thank you for joining into my teaching story. There's a lot to learn from it. Maybe yours is similar, maybe it's not. leave comments below telling me what you think, questions you may have looking for a job, anything you want to know. Also, leave comments for videos you might want to see this summer. I'm getting ready to start getting onto a normal pace with making videos and uploading them. So let me know what you want to see. Day in the life vlogs, preparing for next year, how distance learning went for me, anything and everything you want. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.